Hey y'all, Kraken Latte here. Welcome back to Dragonflight Alpha! Yes, we're still looking at professions. We have just a few more to go, and this time we're jumping into engineering and tailoring specializations. This episode will probably be just about tailoring, unless tailoring doesn't have much, which it looks like it does. So we're gonna jump right into that. I did not level my tailoring very far. I went just high enough to look at the specializations because luckily we can read everything and see everything without actually needing to learn the specialization. So, which is very nice for me because I don't have oodles and oodles of time to be able to leveling these professions. So, we have, it looks like, technically 4 different tabs here, but we have Tailoring Mastery, which I have noticed seems to be a trend on some of the professions, where we get like a base, not a specialization per se, but like just like it says, mastery of your profession, and then the specs are additional. So this first one is our quote-unquote freebie, if you will. So Tailoring Mastery. Specialize in the art of tailoring. Improve your ability to use your limited resources economically. Source more resources from the Dragon Isles, as well as greatly improving the quality of all of your crafts. So, much like the different ranks of the Legion and BFA profession recipes, where you would save resources, you get procs, stuff like that. That is what this little extra mastery tab is about, but it's attached here and applies to everything instead of every individual stinking recipe, which I approve of personally. Because like I said in a previous profession video, I didn't really like the ranking system for each individual recipe of Legion and BFA because it was just, it felt like collecting the same thing repeatedly. And this is a major improvement in my opinion. So I'm glad to see this continuing into other professions. Not every profession seemed to have it yet, but that might be something they go back and add. I feel like I didn't see this on every profession. But anyways, so let's look at what Tailoring Mastery is going to grant you. So we have the base Tailoring Mastery node here. Improve at the art of tailoring, gaining +1 skill point in this spec. And let's go ahead and add knowledge to that so we can, just because we don't need to, because we can still read in everything without it, but you know, I want to. So what does this give us when we max that out? We have tailoring is 10% faster, +15 inspiration, and +15 resourcefulness when making tailoring goods, and we get to learn the final sub. We get to learn all of these 3 subs. So +3 skill, learn a sub, +4 skill, learn a sub, and +3 skill. So there's that. Now we've got cloth collection, sparing sewing, and shrewd stitchery. I like the words they've got going on here. So let's learn shrewd stitchery. What is this? Become meticulous in your stitchery, gaining +1 inspiration per point in this specialization. So that's nice. So let's juice this one up here. We're just stuffing knowledge into our little brains. And what do each of these do? So inspiration grants 5% additional crafting skill when making tailoring goods. Very nice. Plus inspiration. Inspiration grants 10% additional crafting. Plus inspiration. Inspiration grants another 10%, and then 25% additional crafting skill from inspiration. So, you know, I'm sure you've noticed, this first tab isn't super exciting because it's just economics, like, you know, improving your actual use, not like learning special things. So, which is totally fine by me. Like, not everything has to be flashy, super exciting, give you new stuff. You know, some of these little passive things, you know, it's helpful. And that's kind of where the RP comes in, you know? You're learning your specializations. You're learning your craft. So, sparing sewing. Use your materials sparingly, gaining +1 resourcefulness per point in this spec. So let's apply that. And Resourcefulness saves 5% additional reagents when crafting tailoring goods. Plus 10 resourcefulness. Resourcefulness saves 10% additional reagents. Very handy. Very handy. Let me take a sip here. It is very hot today. There. Not dying now. Plus 10 resourcefulness when making tailoring goods. Resourcefulness saves 10% additional reagents. Plus 10 resourcefulness. And another 25% additional reagents saved. So, very handy. And then the last one on our mastery for tailoring here is cloth collection. This one goes all the way up to 50, not just 30. So what does this do? Learn to collect cloth from humanoids more effectively, gaining increased chance for cloth to drop in the Dragon Isles by 1% per point in this spec. Okay. On unlocking this spec, chance for cloth to drop from humanoids in the Dragon Isles increased by 10%. This one's chock full of stuff. Very interesting, because this reminds me of the BFA extra tailoring questline that you could get at the very end of it. Most of the professions in BFA, when you maxed out your profession, you could get a quest. They added these quest lines like a couple patches into the expansion. It was a little extra thing that they did. And you could craft an item that you would then do this quest line for, and then once you had it, it would improve something about your profession or do something really neat. And the tailoring one, I recall, would increase your cloth drop. It was very handy. A lot of people used it for freehold farming because there's a lot of humanoids there, to get way more cloth to be able to craft goods with tailoring and then vendor them for raw gold. So that was a very handy thing. It kind of reminds me of that. Or the tailoring in Legion. I don't quite remember if it was like a separate tool. Might have been a tool. Demons would drop more cloth if you had certain something. Don't quite remember. It's been a while for that one. But that's what it reminds me of. So that's kind of cool. So what does this do here? A chance for cloth to drop from humanoids in the Dragon Isles increased by 10%. Let's see, another 10%. Let's see, humanoids, and another 10%. Another 10%. Another 10%. Another 10%. Another 10. Another 10. Another 10. Another 10. And then learn to rarely collect bolts of older cloth off humanoids. So, wow. So that's an additional 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So 100% increase in cloth drop off humanoids specifically in the Dragon Isles, as well as being able to collect bolts off humanoids. Rarely, it says. So, interesting. That's kind of cool. So that'll be really good for your cloth collectors. So, yeah. Neat. Alright, so let's move on here. Let's look at these 3 official specializations. That was our little mastery of the profession itself. Now we have the specializations. We have Textiles, which is specialize in the textiles necessary to craft the most powerful equipment, learning how to become an expert at unraveling various pieces of cloth, weaving that cloth into bolts, and then embroidering various items. So that's that. Then we have Draconic Needlework. Specialize in crafting highly unique pieces of equipment by communing and harnessing the magics of both the Bronze and Azure Dragonflights. Interesting. Curious that it's those 2 specifically. I guess the reds, the blacks, and the greens, which are the other three Dragonflights, don't care for needlework. It's just the bronze and the blue. Interesting. Alright, now we have garment crafting. Specialize in crafting a broad range of combat and profession equipment necessary for your adventures in the Dragon Isles. Very cool. So, let's just snag Textiles. We'll learn this one. I can't learn the other 2 until level 50 and level Well, it says 50, but the third one is 100 once you learn your second one. 25, 50, and 100, and it seems to be that way across all professions, so that's really nice. So let's learn this. So we're gonna do textiles. Fill that one up. All right, so textiles. Improve in the more specialized aspects of tailoring, including the creation of various reagents and specialty items, gaining +1 skill per point in the specialization. So, +5 inspiration when crafting specialty items, and reagents. Learn a sub. +15 crafting speed when crafting specialty items and reagents. Learn another sub-spec of your choice. +5 resourcefulness. Learn the final sub. And learn to use special finishing reagents in order to improve the quality of your specialty item crafts. Alright, so that's the basic node here. And then we have spinning, weaving, and embroidery. Let's look at spinning. That sounds fun. Juice that one up. Juice. Alright, so become an expert at unraveling cloth and spinning various threads, gaining +1 skill point in this specialization. That's very neat. Become an expert at unraveling cloth. I'm assuming that's referring to this here, Dragon Isles Unraveling. When you do this here, you can unravel some cloth. It will destroy the cloth, but you get some wilder thread instead. Turns it from cloth back to thread. So that's very interesting. I'm assuming that's what this is referring to, so very interesting. Alright, so learn to occasionally extract rousing elements from certain types of wilder cloth during the unraveling process. So that's really neat. We have +10 resourcefulness when unraveling cloth and spinning thread. +5 skill. +15 crafting speed. Very handy. I like crafting speed. +5 skill. +10 resourcefulness. And learn to guarantee a rousing element from certain types of wilder cloth during the unraveling process. Now it says certain types of wilder cloth. The vendor only has tattered wilder cloth and then wilder cloth, which is the green version. So I'm assuming that means, because I didn't learn all of the recipes, of course, I'm assuming that means these other cloths here that we looked at in the recipes version of the tailoring video. We got chrono cloth, Azure Weave, bloody wilder cloth, vibrant wilder cloth, and then, well, bolts. But so we can make our own different kind. Does that mean we're going to find different kinds that drop, or can we only make it? I'm unsure about that, but both is good. Either way, I am fine with. I don't have a preference there. I'm glad that we can make it just at all. I think that's really cool, the whole being able to make unique cloths and things, or leatherworking does this too, where you make your special leathers that are imbued with elements and stuff. That feels really cool to me. I don't know, there's just something about that that's always appealed to me, being able to like make new, improved, powerful, enchanted things, reagents, materials that you can't get anywhere else and only you can make it. And that just seems cool to me. But anyways, weaving. So, become an expert at weaving cloth into bolts, gaining +1 skill per point in this spec. On unlocking this spec, +20 multi-craft when weaving cloth into bolts. So, this is skilling up your bolt making. That's gonna be handy. I'm sure we're gonna need a lot of bolts for stuff. I feel like we will if they're putting a whole talent node into it. So +20 multi-craft when weaving cloth into bolts. And as a reminder, from my understanding, multi-craft is the kind of new stat equivalent of when you proc something. Like you craft like alchemy potions from BFA or Legion. If you had the rank 3 version, I believe it was rank 3, you had a chance to proc and it would craft more than one for the same amount of materials. From my understanding, that's what this multi-craft stat is, which I'm glad. I liked that little tidbit. That was like the point of me having, if you've seen my past profession videos on my current professions, it's the point of me having multiple alchemists because it procs different stuff, and I like having access to all that. So, having this here baked into the profession is going to be really nice. So, all right, plus 10 inspiration when weaving cloth into bolts, plus 40 multi-craft. Wow. Plus 10 inspiration and plus 15 multi-craft. So very simple there, but it doesn't need to be flashy. It's just got some good old stat increase and some multi-craft, which is going to be very handy. So, embroidery is the next one. Everyone loves some good fancy embroidery on their clothing. What does this do? Become an expert at embroidering both simple items such as polishing cloth and intricate items such as banners and bags. Interesting. So they're including bags in this. Gain plus 1 skill per point in this spec. Alright, so we have plus 15 resourcefulness when crafting items such as polishing cloths, banners, and bags. Plus 10 inspiration, plus 5 skill, plus 10 inspiration, plus 5 skill, plus 10 resourcefulness, and learn to use embroidery thread finishing reagents on various polishing cloths, banners, and bags. Very handy. So that was textiles. That was very simple, but it doesn't need to be super fancy. And again, like I mentioned in past specialization previews here, is there's a lot of room around here. This is a very simple tree. I feel like they probably will, I mean, I'll be honestly surprised if they don't add more to this later, because I know sometimes they like to add more profession stuff in future patches of the same expansion to kind of, you know, give you something to chew on, something new to work on. And they got plenty of room in here, so that's really neat. I like that. And kind of on a note too that just has been pointed out a couple times, I have mentioned I don't know how interactive all this is going to be with older expansion versions of this of your profession, because you know you got Pandaria, Cataclysm, Northrend, etc., and all of this does appear to be specific for your Dragon Isles stuff. Like if we go to, let's see, I don't know it. In fact, bear with me real quick. I know, I can't write that here. Give me something I can write. I know where the tailor is, I believe. Let me go pick up Cataclysm tailoring. Tailor, it doesn't have, yeah, here it is. Tailoring doesn't have, the old one doesn't have specializations on it. But let's just learn all this. Learn what it lets me here. There we go.
Light bless you.
But I don't know if it's going to be having any interactivity at all with the old one. Let's see. So let's look at Cataclysm. Yeah, see, these are still here. Well, even when you select... Oh, wait, it went back to Dragon Isles. Cataclysm. So, Cataclysm stuff. Which, by the way, can I just add... I really like these new arrows. Instead of, like... Not every profession seems to have it yet. Sorry, I know I'm jumping all over the place here, but... Thoughts. This is a very thought-provoking content type video. But currently, at least on the UI I'm using... which is, I think this part's basic. I don't have LVY affecting it too much. The whole word changes color, but I like this little arrow thing instead because it looks cleaner. It's not so crazy. I don't know. I like this direction they're going with the little colored arrows, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, you can see like your stats and stuff. Yeah, it auto switches it back to Dragon Isles, but like this little stat bar here, that's not here even on Shadowlands. That's not here on any of these older ones as far as I can tell, which is fine. And the Specializations tab, while it's still here, you know, a lot of this I'm sure you've noticed says specifically Dragon Isles. While in the Dragon Isles, this is Dragon Isles stuff. So The reason I point that out is I keep getting asked, and I've heard theories both ways, and I don't really have much of a way to prove it right now without spending probably 20 hours doing so, which is not worth it, is will this override the existing specializations for alchemy and engineering? Because they do have them live before, you know, Dragonflight goes live here, and I don't know. I'm honestly unsure, because this is all very specific to the Dragon Isles. I'm really hoping they decide to move it back retroactively, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't. This is very Dragon Isles only stuff. Even though, honestly, I'd be pretty happy if they just took, like, the same things and applied it retroactively to each expansion. Even if you had to level it for each expansion, fine. I wouldn't mind. This seems really cool, and it's not that hard, from what I can tell. And just change the wording, like, a little bit, and then say, oh, it's for Cataclysm now, so while you're doing Cataclysm spinning, or whatever, you know, that can apply there. I would like to see that. I don't know that they will. So I don't know. I want to say a soft no. I don't believe it's going to override the previous specializations that exist for engineering and alchemy. Because to get those, you have to level your what do they call it here? Classic? Yeah, your classic. This is tailoring, but, you know, on alchemy and engineering, you have to level your classic, I believe, to all the way to 300. Because it goes all the way to 300. And then you can pick up a quest and do a little very easy quest, and suddenly you have a specialization. You can't learn both, though. If you like want all of it, you have to have multiple characters doing it. So I'm unsure if it's going to override that. I don't think it will, but I don't know. So we will find out, because again, this is alpha. A lot can change. A lot can happen. So let's move on with what we were looking at here. Getting off track a little bit. Draconic Needlework. So we can't learn this one here because I don't have enough skill in my tailoring, but we can read everything, and that's what matters. So, Draconic Needlework, specialized in crafting highly unique pieces of equipment by communing and harnessing the magics of both the Bronze and Azure Dragonflights. So that's very cool. So, we have Draconic Needlework. Source the magic of the Dragon Isles, see there it is, specific again, to craft exceptional clothware with reagents such as Azure Weave and Chronocloth, gaining +1 skill per point in this spec. Alright, so let's read this little circular XP bar here, if you will. So we get to learn a sub, +5 inspiration when crafting items using either Azure Weave or Chronocloth, +5 resourcefulness, learn to use special finishing reagents that improve crafting quality on items using Azure Weave or Chronocloth, +5 resourcefulness, +5 inspiration, and learn the final sub. So we got 2 subs here. We have Azure Weave tailoring and Chronocloth tailoring. So let's look at Chronocloth. Delve into the secrets behind the Bronze Dragonflight's time magic in your tailoring, gaining +1 skill per point in this spec when making and using Chronocloth. Alright, and we learn to craft the Chronocloth bolt. So that's cool. So these here, that's where those come from, is from this. Again, I think that's really cool. This has been a thing in other professions, and I like that. I like that you get to learn new recipes from doing your specializations. That sounds really neat to me. So, what does this one say? We have learned to craft Chronocloth bolt, plus an inspiration when making and using Chronocloth. Learn to craft Chronocloth gloves. Alright, so there's even a set, or at least part of one, involved in this, so that's cool. Learn the final sub. +10 resourcefulness when making and using Chronocloth. +10 inspiration when making and using Chronocloth. And learn to craft Chronocloth leggings. Very cool. So now we have time weaving. That sounds cool. Which is very reminiscent of the BFA tailoring item. It dealt with a bronze Dragonflight, a member of it, and it was really fun. I really like that. So if you haven't done it, I do recommend you go do that. It's really fun. So, alright, so time weaving. Master the art of creating chronocloth bolts, getting +1 skill per point in this spec. On unlocking this specialization, improve your connection with the magic of the bronze Dragonflight, decreasing how quickly you exhaust the magic used to craft chronocloth bolts. Now that's an interesting way to word that. I wonder what that means exactly. Decreasing how quickly you exhaust the magic used to craft chronocloth bolts. So we need some sort of magic to make these, apparently. Chronocloth. Awakened air, awakened order, vibrant wilder cloth. I don't know. I guess we'll find out exactly what that means later. Maybe it's just fancy wording. Who knows? Alright, so that's what we just read. +10 multi-craft when making chronocloth bolts, +5 skill, +10 multi-craft, and further improve your connection with the magic of the bronze Dragonflight, decreasing how quickly you exhaust the magic used to craft chronocloth bolts. So that's that. And then on the other side, we have Azure Weave tailoring. Focus. Oops, there we go. Focus on the arcane nature of the blue Dragonflight in your tailoring, gaining +1 skill point per point in the specialization when making and using Azure Weave. So we learned to craft Azure Weave bolt when we learned this. Very neat. That's where that recipe comes from. +10 inspiration. Learn to craft Azure Weave mantle. Learn the final sub. +10 resourcefulness when making and using Azure Weave. +10 inspiration. And learn to craft Azure Weave robe. Sorry. Very cool. So then we have Azure Weaving. Master the art of creating Azure Weave bolts, gaining +1 skill per point in this spec. Improve your connection with the magic of the blue Dragonflight, decreasing how quickly you exhaust the magic used to craft Azure Weave bolt. There's that phrasing again. Interesting. So that's what that says there. +10 multi-craft, +10 or +5 skill, +10 multi-craft, and further improve your connection with the magic of the blue Dragonflight, decreasing how quickly you exhaust the magic used to craft Azure Weave bolts. So some sort of magic is apparently involved. I'm not sure if that's referring exactly to the materials that we need to craft these, or if there's some sort of something that we need to be able to craft it. Much like, I guess the only thing I can really think of as a comparison is to make mooncloth, which is a... is that Cataclysm? I don't remember what expansion mooncloth comes from. But you have to be standing in a moon well. You know, one of those pretty glowy wells that the Night Elves have to craft mooncloth, which I think is a really neat mechanic. Like, you might look at that and go, it's so annoying I have to go all the way over there. But I think it's cool because, well, yes, it's restricted and you can't just make it anywhere. On the other hand, it's a lot more immersive. And it increases, in a way, the, I don't know, value of stuff like that, because then you have to take your time to go all the way over there and do it. And lazy people aren't going to do that. So, you know, that kind of boosts that a little bit. So that was Draconic Needlework. Very interesting. Let's move to garment crafting. And here is a big ol' long one, but it looks like from these icons, it's much like leatherworking was, where we get better at crafting specific pieces of armor and such. So let's look at this. Specialize in crafting a broad range of combat and profession equipment necessary for your adventures in the Dragon Isles. So, garment crafting. Improve at tailoring cloth armor to take on the most power foes in the Dragon Isles, gaining +1 skill per point in this specialization. Alright. So, let's read that one. +10 skill when crafting cloth armor. learn a sub of your choice. +5 inspiration, learn a sub. +5 resourcefulness, learn a sub. And tailoring is 10% faster. +10 inspiration and +10 resourcefulness when making cloth armor. So that is the main node for garment crafting. And then we have outfits, outerwear, and embellishments. Ooh, fancy. So let's look at outfits. That one's pretty simple. Improve at tailoring the major aspects of an outfit, such as chest and leg pieces of armor, gaining +1 skill per point in this specialization. Learn to use optional reagents to specify the secondary stats on many chest and leg armor pieces. So that's how you can change the stats on chests and pants, and they'll probably do something very similar for all the other pieces. So let's go ahead and read this. So learn to use the optional reagents, +5 skill, learn a sub, +10 inspiration, learn to craft dragon cloth tailoring vestments, so that must be where those recipes come from. Very cool. +5 skill, learn a sub, +10 resourcefulness, and learn to use embroidery thread finishing reagents on chest and leg armor pieces. Very cool. So then we have robes and leggings, as it was alluding to. So under robes, specialize in tailoring cloth chest pieces such as robes and tunics. I like that they included tunics there because that's the chest piece version of a robe. Thank you. Yes. Learn to craft vibrant wilder cloth vestments. So that's where that comes from. Very simple circle here. And then +10 skill for chest armor, and learn to use powerful finishing reagents to further improve the quality of your chest pieces. So this is probably going to be pretty much the same for a lot of these. This is also teaches you the vibrant wilder cloth slacks. So that's where that recipe comes from. And then we jump over to outerwear, which, as you might expect, improve at tailoring the embellishments of an outfit such as hand, feet, head, and back pieces. Gain +1 skill per point in this spec, and you learn to use optional reagents, etc., on those pieces. So we've got, we'll glance through this, but what's this do? +10 inspiration, learn a sub, +10 resourcefulness, learn a sub. Oh, learn to craft market tent. Okay, so that's where that recipe comes from. Very interesting. Learn a sub, +10 resourcefulness, learn a sub, +10 inspiration, and learn to use embroidery thread finishing reagents on these pieces. So, very simple again. This one will teach us, I'll just kind of scoot through these because they're going to be all the same in this little tree. Learn to craft vibrant wilder cloth hand wraps. This one's for footwear. That one gives you the slippers. This one gives you the head cover, or the hood. And then this one's for cloaks, which teaches you the vibrant wilder cloth shawl. So that's the outerwear. And now we have embellishments. So what is this exactly? Improve at tailoring the embellishments of an outfit, such as the waist, shoulder, and wrist. So it's the rest of the pieces. Pretty simple. So there's that. We'll scoot through this real quick. Optional reagents, etc., +5 skill, learn a sub, +10 inspiration, learn a sub, +10 resourcefulness, learn a sub, +5 skill, and embroidery thread and finishing reagents. So then we can learn the vibrant wilder cloth shoulder spikes, apparently. We have the wrist wraps and the girdle. So that appears to be this. This is just specializing and improving how you craft every piece of a set for cloth. And just as that name suggests, that's garment crafting. So pretty cool there. That is, like, you know, you might look at that and go, oh, but it's a lot of the same kind of stuff. But on the other hand, yeah, but if they didn't separate this all out, it's just suddenly you're very good at making the entire set, when, you know, no artist is perfect at everything until they become to that point. Like, how many artists have you heard say they're not good at hands? Hands are difficult. So think of this as kind of the same thing. Like maybe one tailor's really good at crafting pants, but not so great with gloves because hands, you know? Maybe they're good at armbands. Those are nice and simple, you know, wrists, but not hoods. I mean, we'll be able to learn everything, obviously, but in a real world setting, that's, you know, a very real thing. You're not good at everything, but you gotta practice to get to the point where you are good at everything. So I like that they separated it. It just seems more involved to me because they very easily could have been like, here's your node, you're good at everything now, which is kind of how it is. Anyway, this adds another layer of, oh, just immersion and involvement and a little bit of, you know, character building. I like that a lot, so. Okay, so that was the tailoring. Not like super blast me out of this world exciting, but I don't think it really needs to be. This all seems very cool. And I'm sure they'll add a little more with Draconic Needlework and Textiles as the expansion goes on. And even if they don't, this is still really neat. And I like where they're going with this. And I hope they really, really, really continue this retroactively. Would be nice to the old expansions. But even if they don't, I really hope they do it. They continue it into future expansions because... yes. They just need to. Because this is way more interesting than the older past versions, even BFA and Legion. I did not like the ranking system personally. Kind of turned me off from doing any major professions because I just didn't like it. This is a major improvement. I'm more excited for it. So I guess that's tailoring. Very simple, very simple. In the next episode, we'll look at engineering. But for now, that's tailoring. So looking forward to it. Thank you so much for watching. As always, remember, it's never too latte.